whether it's your brain or your mouth, whatever you're putting into it is either positive or negative.
Curiosity is your superpower. A big mistake people make is they want to use willpower and just go big leap jump to the end. And that's not going to work. You've got to really celebrate the wins. If you want this to take root, you want to make it faster, that's the secret sauce.
Welcome to the Leadership and Love podcast. We will cover leadership, mindset, personal development, and sales and marketing. You will experience thought-provoking conversations with both nationally and internationally recognized leaders. Our goal is to inspire you and deliver actionable items that you can implement that are going to help you accelerate your growth. Get ready to discover the magic and the power when you lead with love.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Leadership and Love. I'm very, very excited today because we have Teresa here, and she's somebody after my heart because of her passion around health and nutrition. And so one of the things I'd like you to talk about, which is really a passion of mine, is food. I'd like you to talk about how do you get your clients to kind of wean off the pop, the processed food, the refined sugar, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So, well, it's part education, it's part experiment, and it's part just learning. So, I have 4 foundational kind of concepts that I ask for success. They're my foundational things for success are, first of all, have an open mind. Curiosity is your superpower. So, starting to understand what's going on with health and being aware in your own life and being willing to try things that maybe before you weren't so, you avoided. Curiosity, being an experimenter with your food and your body. So, what would happen if you were to, try a day or two with, half the number of pops that you're drinking, or, so you just experiment with that. Start to try out and see if there's an effect. There may not be an immediate effect, but be aware and have that experimental kind of mindset. And even if things don't go your way, learn from it. In my work, bad days give good data. Everything is good data. So even on bad days, that gives us good data that we can reflect on and understand better what direction we need to go. And so it's just having that learning, curiosity, awareness mindset. So that's number 1, that open mind. Number 2 is baby steps. Okay. A big mistake people make is they want to use willpower and just go big leap jump to the end. And that's not going to work. I get a lot of people that are high achieving. They're like, Teresa, just tell me what to do. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So, the thing is that if I had a crystal ball and could tell you what habits you had in place at the end of our kind of relationship together, like you met your goals, you would be shocked. You'd be like, really? I was doing that over and over? And
Right.
the reason is because there's a gap between the mindset of who you are at the end and who you are now. And we've got to travel the journey through baby steps. So, I have to ask my high achieving, ambitious, go for it people to take that hat off and just take baby steps. This is lifestyle change. This is not a project at work.
So I'd like to interrupt you real quick. I want everybody to catch what she just said. A lot of us I'm a type A personality, right? I'm a go after it kind of guy. Seriously. Been that way my whole life. But one of the things that she just said, and this is for all of us that are pushing constantly for perfection, the next goal, whatever that may be, is these little steps over time. And I love what you're talking about, Teresa, because it's just so truly powerful. The other thing, she said this a couple times, and for all of our listeners, I want you to catch this too. Only one thing at a time. You don't know what's moved the needle. If I stopped drinking pop, if I stopped eating desserts, if I stopped eating or drinking like fruit juices that are a lot of sugar, if I did all 3 of those things at the same time and the needle moves, I don't know what did it because I changed too many things at once. In all transparency, back in the day, I used to drink 2 or 3 cans of Mountain Dew in the morning and wash down sugar donuts. And I'm not proud of that, but I can tell. And I went, and so to your overachiever point, I went cold turkey. I gave up Mountain Dew cold, and it was like withdrawal, right? I had the shakes, I had headaches. Well, because I was drinking so much caffeine and sugar. That stuff's liquid caffeine and sugar. And then when you're off of it, you realize, like, now I can't drink a pop. My body won't let me, right? Because my body knows I'm putting garbage into it. But I'd like you to talk about, in those baby steps, how do you get them off of, like, so you stop one can. If you're drinking 3 cans of pop a day, you just cut out one. How do you get them from there to, like, eating food that's healthier for them instead of the processed stuff?
Well, it's all about focusing on what you want to bring more in. Do you want, protein we can work on vegetables, we can work on water. So I educate, and then I ask, what do you feel inspired to start? Where do you want to start? So that can be adding 1 vegetable at lunch, 3 times a week bring it to work. It could be cooking 1 more meal at home. You go at it gradually and you start to see how you feel better, how it's, what are the ideas? Are you tired of broccoli now and you want new, ideas for vegetables or new ways to fix broccoli? Taking it just little bit by little bit and learning. There's so many gems along the path, the journey that you get that will help you sustain this, because this is about sustainable.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that you've touched on a couple of things that are very, very powerful. And I don't think people realize we have so much similarity, and I like how we see the world and our mindset. And one of the things I share with people, whether it's your brain or your mouth, whatever you're putting into it is either positive or negative, right? There's nothing, you don't get to straddle the line where it's not either one. One of my favorite words is awareness, but you've talked about it, right? And I love what you share with your clients, because at some point I become aware that if I put broccoli in my mouth, and after lunch I think, well, I'm not tired. I actually have more energy. I feel better, right? And so, can you talk about awareness, both in their mindset and as well as the awareness of their body?
Yeah, awareness is your best friend on this journey. So you can't change something unless you're not aware of it. So, and having that curiosity mindset. So typically after a first visit with a client, I will ask them to become, as one of their habit experiments, I ask them to put on the lens of the cycle of health. So just looking at your environment and becoming aware with that lens of, wow, where are easy ways to eat more whole food, or where can I get some more movement in my life, or what's something, a conversation you have with a person that initiates an idea for a stress recovery. I tell people, I say, if I asked you to look for a red car tomorrow, you would see red cars, because I planted that seed. Now I want to plant the seed of this health awareness.
Yeah, man, I love you. You're a rock star. So I'd like you to talk about water. So for everything I've read, you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water every day. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, water is super important. And some of my clients, when they start getting in more water, they feel more energy, they feel better. So that's a great benefit. The food you eat also has water in there. There's some calculations in there. So sometimes I say, what's the color of your pee? Is it lemonade, or, what does it look like? So that can give you, now there's certain medications that can change that, but that's another good guide, is seeing if you're getting dehydrated or not. As we get older, our thirst mechanism is not as good, so we got to just keep on top of it. But water is really important. So I have a lot of my clients drink a glass of water before they fill their coffee cup. So those sort of things, or put the, glass of water beside the bed. So the first thing when you get up is you have a glass of water. Make it easy, make it visible. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. And so one of the things she just went back to habits, right? And so I want to touch on this real quick. There's 3 things I share with people to create a new habit, right? For the first thing that you want to do is you want to tie it to an old habit. So I love what you just said, Doc. If you get up in the morning, that's a habit. You get up every morning, that's a habit. you tie your new habit to the old habit. You put the glass of water on your nightstand. The next thing is you put a physical reminder in your universe. In this case, you already have the glass of waters next to your nightstand, right? And then in some fashion, reward yourself. I like to high five myself, right? If I do something good for me, I give myself a high five. One of the things that I'd like you to share or talk about, Doc, is in this transition, what do you suggest or how do you help your clients when they fall off the wagon, so to speak?
Self-compassion, and that's my third tip for success. So remember, the first one was have an open mind. Second one was take baby steps. The third one is self-compassion, because this is not easy stuff, and it's not about perfection. It's about progress. And so you're going to derail or fall off the wagon. You're going to overeat. You're going to forget something at the grocery store. You're going to not get your water in. So these things are going to happen, and you need to have self-compassion and then curiosity. So then, what can I do? What got in the way? So what can I do to prevent that challenge again? So can I go at it a different way? So being just that scientist mindset. What can I learn from this? We are wired for negativity, and we are wired for overeating. Okay.
So I'd like you to stop for just because, again, you're hitting another gold vein in this gold mine. I'd like you to talk seriously, because people don't understand these things, right? Because and again, it's 10,000 years of evolution. You're absolutely right. When that saber-toothed tiger roared, we knew we had to run. It was all about survival. And so I'd like you to talk about those two things, about how we're wired for negativity and how we eat, because there was a time when we didn't know if we were going to get our next meal, right? So we would eat as much as we possibly could, not knowing if we had another meal coming.
Yeah. So we're wired for overeating. So it's our bodies actually would rather be 350 pounds than 150 pounds, because you're going to survive a famine much better, and you will, at 350 pounds than you will at 150 pounds.
Right.
But we don't have a famine coming, and our bodies don't know this. So there are things in our wiring that make it easy to overeat, and the manufacturers know this, and they use this against us. They manipulate us. So with the ultra processed food, so it's hyper palatable, it's got vanishing caloric density. We know that when we eat 100% ultra processed food, 100%, there's a really good study done in 2019 that we overeat our needs by 500 calories a day. Yes, there was a really well done study. So on people, not mice. So it's golden done. And they found that if you eat 100% ultra processed, now most of us are not eating 100%. Right now in the US, 67% is where most Americans are eating ultra processed, 67%. If you're a teen, you're closer to 80%. Makes me cringe, but it's the truth. So, but this study, what they were able to do, they were able to test this out, but the subjects, what they found was if they ate 100% ultra processed, they overate their needs by 500 calories. So in a week, they gained a pound, and they did. In 2 weeks, they gained 2 pounds. So that's the wiring that we have for overeating.
And I'd like you to talk about something, because I don't think people understand the power of this either. If I put a pound on in a week, I really don't notice, right? And seriously, people don't notice. And then one day they wake up and they're 50 pounds, and especially guys, they got these big guts hanging over their belt, and they didn't get there. Same thing, right? It's these little habits over time. They don't add 50 pounds in their gut overnight.
Yeah, it is very sneaky. So yes, yes. So you also asked about the negativity. So negativity, we are wired for that. That's why when my clients come to my sessions, the first thing they want to say to me is, I did horrible, and I won't let them. I can see it though, because that's how they're thinking. So instead, during our sessions, I always pull out the wins. And I actually send them back a list of the wins, and they're amazed because they're so hyper focused on what they did didn't do, or what they did, how far they didn't get, instead of all the things they did do and all the things they held since, we started working together. That's progress. So, and my fourth habit for success, or principle for success, is celebrate the wins. So it's very important. Yes, it's very important. It's a motivator to keep going. It rewires our brain. As you know, we have, if something has a positive emotion attached to it, we're more likely to do it and continue with it. We know that. So we need to. So, so many of the people I work with are hardworking people that, they grew up in an environment that said, don't make a big deal about it. Just keep your head down and keep working hard. Don't worry, just keep thinking about the next thing you're going to do, and keep, making sure you're always doing something productive. And I get that. I grew up in that environment too. But I'm here to say we need to stop and celebrate the wins, because it will help us. It will help us do the things we want to do, root the habits. We've got to root these habits. This is hard stuff. So if we're going to root it, we've got to find a way to celebrate the wins. That could be, I have some clients that create a proof chart. So we check off every time they do a habit. Some of them get star stickers, because they want to see those star stickers. So whatever it takes, making a victory log. Some of my clients, while they're brushing their teeth, they'll reflect on their wins through the day. So just doing that, you have to celebrate. It's really important to pause and think about all these changes you've done in order to continue the changes. This is part of the process, part of the secret sauce. So, and BJ Fogg, he's a behavior change researcher at Stanford. He wrote a book, not Atomic, that's James Clear. He wrote Tiny Habits, a book, and I took his certification for behavior change. He offers one. And one of his big thing in his book and in his certifications is that celebration. That celebration is so important. He actually has a handout with 100 ways you can celebrate. So I call it the end zone football goal dance. What is it if you made your, winning team goal? What is the dance you do in the end zone? So,
Right.
my clients kind of laugh at me, but, and for some of them, they're like, I'm an introvert. I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay. So can you send a text to a friend or to a significant other and just say, I did it, or send, a picture or something, because that will bring the feeling of success in you as you send that text. So, there's all kinds of different ways we can do this, but you've got to really celebrate the wins. If you want this to take root, you want to make it faster, that's the secret sauce. You attach a positive emotion to the habit if you want to get it rooted and grow it sooner. So that's my fourth success tip for success.
I love that. And that's one of the things we talked about earlier, is celebrating once you've got that, you do that new habit. I'd like to share something in transparency. Back in the day when I was running triathlons, and I want this for the listeners to know this too. What I would do is, like if I worked out that day and rode my bike and ran, my way to celebrate was ice cream, which wasn't the most positive habit. So
Yes.
keep in mind that when you celebrate, you want it to be positive, not negative. So I'd like to challenge our listeners to a couple of things. If we're eating correctly, everything that comes out of our body should not have an odor. And the other thing is that, and I experienced this and I live this regularly. The other thing is there's really no need for toilet paper. And I don't mean to be gross or disgusting, but I'm serious. If you're putting the right things in your body, what comes out of it doesn't have an odor. And you think about it. Let's go back 1,000 years ago. They didn't have toilet paper. Why? Because they didn't need it. Because what they were putting in was everything that was natural, all the plants that were in the environment, all the things that they needed to keep their bodies healthy. So I'd challenge our listeners to start down a path. I'd also highly recommend that you reach out to Dr. Teresa, because at some point she can help you start down this path. But I can tell you that you'll be amazed at how well you feel once you start putting all these good things in your body, and you realize that the toxic stuff is just that. What's Doc? What's a book that you've read that changed your life, and why?
Okay, I got it here. Make Change That Lasts by it's by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. He's a UK doctor, and it's a book that it's not about food per se. It has food in there. It's about health, but it's about breaking free from habits, mindsets that are holding many of us back. And one in particular is be yourself. And he quotes an endocrinologist called Hans Selye. And he says the biggest stressors in human beings are emotional ones. And the biggest stressor of all is trying to be who you are not.
That's another golden nugget.
What happens is you oftentimes end up trying to soothe yourself because you're in this disconnect with things like sweets. So you go for things that are not going to serve you. And the second thing that happens that people don't realize is with this disconnect, because you're not being authentic, being yourself, you create a threat in your body. Your body actually recognizes that as a threat internally, which means it's going to lead to inflammation, things like inflammation in your body. So you're creating chronic stress in your body that leads to chronic systemic inflammation likely. So these are things that people don't realize, that like that disconnect where you're fearing that the fear of being yourself, of putting yourself out there, is creating a threat inside your body.
That's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. How can people reach out or connect with you, Doc?
Yeah, I'd love to, connect with your listeners. So you can go to my website at Dr. Teresa Pangan. So that's DrTeresaPangan.com. So go to my website. You can see a little more on my approach, and you can reach out to me. You can schedule an appointment. You can schedule a brief chat call. So you can get on my mailing list there. I put out a weekly nutrition scoop newsletter. So I'd love to connect with your listeners.
Well, thank you again, Doc, for taking the time. It's just been a great conversation, and I appreciate everything that you had to add to our listeners, and I hope you have an enjoyable rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Thanks again for joining us and listening to this episode of Leadership and Love. I would like to challenge you to ask yourself, what's one thing that you heard today that you can implement immediately to improve your leadership and accelerate your growth? If you've gotten value out of this episode or learned something that you can implement today, we'd ask that you please share it with those that you care about. Our goal is to create more leaders who are leading with love.